This is the Common Core Algebra Regents exam from June 2014. Let's get started. When solving the equation 4 parentheses 3x squared plus 2 parentheses minus 9 equals 8x squared plus 7, Emily wrote 4 parentheses 3x squared plus 2 parentheses equals 8x squared plus 16 is our first step. Which property did she use? Well, what happened here is she added 9 to both sides. When she does that, she gets this over here. So if she added something to both sides, that's the addition property of equality. Know your properties. Officials in a town use a function C to analyze traffic patterns. C of n represents the rate of traffic through an intersection where n is the number of observed vehicles. Get in the habit of writing what each thing is. C of n is the rate of traffic. N is the number of observed vehicles. What would be the most appropriate domain for these real-life domain problems? Almost always, your answer is going to either be whole numbers or non-negative integers. So once you see domain, especially for the real-life situation, it's going to be whole numbers, or in other words, non-negative integers. Choice 4. The reason is the domain is the number of observed vehicles. Well, you would start with 0, then you'd see 1, you'd see 2, you'd see 3, forever and ever. You're not going to see a negative amount of cars pass through. You're not going to see half a car pass through. If you see half a car passing through, you probably got more important things to do than watch cars through an intersection. 3. Now, we want to look to use our multiple choice strategies. We know to use multiple choice strategies when I have variables in the problem and variables in the answers, or variables in the problem and numbers in the answers. I see variables in the problem, I see variables in the answers, so I'm going to use my multiple choice strategy. You do have to first rewrite it with parentheses as a natural subtraction problem. If I'm doing this with my multiple choice strategy, I'm going to get my calculator going here. I'm going to do parentheses. Well, first off, I'm going to do 10, store as x. I'm going to do 15, store as y. I do this once, I'm good for the rest of the exam. 3x squared plus 5x minus 6 minus negative 2x squared minus 6x plus 7. Second test equals, and I'm going to type in each choice. Negative 5x squared minus 11x plus 13. If it gives me 0, it means it's wrong. So that's not the answer. I keep on going until I get a 1. Now, with your calculator, you can just go up and highlight it. However, with mine, you can't. So, to save a little bit of time, I'm going to look at the answers, and number 3 is choice 2. So, when I type in choice 2, and I do 3x squared plus 5x minus 6 minus negative 2x squared minus 6x plus 7, second math equals choice 2, 5x squared plus 11x minus 13. It gives you a 1, which means that is equivalent. You do want to go through each choice to make sure that only one of them gives you a 1. In this case, only one of them does give you a 1, but it is possible that more than one of them will. If that's the case, then you need to read the question to see which one you answer. Usually whichever one is reduced or factored further is the answer. Now to do this mathematically, to subtract polynomials, you need to keep, change. Keep the first one, change subtraction to addition, change everything in the second polynomial. Combine like terms, 5x squared plus 11x minus 3. Which graph shows the solution of a given set of inequalities? Well, first off, if you notice, some of them are solid and some of them are dashed. This is going to be dashed. This is going to be solid because of the equal sign. So, I should see one solid, one dashed. Not choice 1, not choice 3. From here, you have to determine which way to shade. They're identical, except they're shaded different between choices 2 and 4. For the 3x minus 2, it should be below. Well, this right here is the 3x minus 2. The solid one is the 3x minus 2. So here, the solid one is graphed below. Here, the solid one is not graphed below. So just by there, I know it's got to be units. This problem has to do with looking to see if it has an equal to determine if it's solid or dashed. And if you are less than or greater, less than is below, greater than is above. Variables in the problem, numbers in the answers, I can use my multiple choice strategies. Now, it's going to be a little bit easier for you to do it because my calculator doesn't have alpha y equals enter. But I can still do it for you. I have to type in 7/3 like this, but for you, type it in as your alpha y equals enter. 8.25 plus parentheses 9/28. Again, you can use alpha y equals enter, close parentheses. Second test equals 20. It gives me a 1, so that's the correct answer. For equations, you don't have to check all of them. Once you have an answer, you have an answer. Unless there's multiple answers, which maybe we'll see later. It asks which type of function best models the given data. The best way to do this is to look at the table. Is there a constant amount being added? Well, here, it looks like we're approximately 180 that's being added. Here, it's approximately 900 that's being added. Is it a constant amount? No. It's not a constant amount. Linear is constant amount. Exponential is an increasing or decreasing amount. Because it's not a constant amount, it's not linear. Decay is getting smaller, growth is getting bigger, this is getting bigger, it's exponential growth. This is the question that you must be able to do. Once I see this, I know it's a linear equation, what I like to call the per x plus the 1 time p problem. So, the per goes in front of the variable. The 1 time fee or 1 time amount goes at the end. The question is asking what the 525 represents. Well, the 525 is the per. Is the startup cost the per? No. Is the profit the per? No. Is the amount spent to manufacture each radio the per? Yes. Is the average number of radios manufactured the per? No. Choice 3 is the answer. You must be able to do that question as well. Which equation has the same solution as? Well, a problem you might have is knowing what it wants you to do here. Based on the problem, I don't know. But based on the answers, I can tell that this is going to be completing the square. Something that's in your college readiness packet. Your first step in completing the square, get the variables alone on one side. Next step is to add b over 2 squared to both sides. b is negative 6 over 2 squared is negative 3 squared is 9. Next step, factor. You will always have the same factor twice. Add these side, add this side. Rewrite it as a binomial squared, and that's all I want you to do. You will see something like this on the Regents. Make sure you know how to do it. If you practice it a few times, you should be good. If you don't practice it, you will not be good. For which interval is the bole's height always decreasing? Well, let's start here. Increasing, 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 increasing. Stop. Vertex. Decreasing, 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 decreasing. All the way until there. For which interval is the bole's height always decreasing? Notice we're looking at the x values. The x value, 2.5 to 5.5. That's it. What are the roots? Well, the roots graphically hit the x-axis. But because I see my answers like this, I know that I'm not going to be able to determine the roots graphically. The roots are the same thing as solving an equation. It's your Mr. X squared. He wants to party. He can't party because this can't be factored. So when he can't party, we need to do the quadratic formula. I knew it wasn't going to factor also because of the answers. If it says simplest radical form, or it has radical form in the answers, I know I'm going to have to do the quadratic formula. A is 1, B is 4, C is negative 16. I get those from the equation. So x equals, if b is 4, negative b is negative 4. Negative b means change the sign. Positive becomes negative, negative becomes positive. Make sure you put these values in parentheses when you're substituting them in. Use the calculator to determine what's inside the radical. Don't type the radical in. Here you're going to get radical 80. Next step, reduce the radical. Off to the side. When you're reducing your radical, you should write out all your perfect squares. What goes into 80? Not 64, not 49, not 36, not 25. 16 does. 16 times 5. If you don't know that in your head, use a calculator. The square root of 16 is 4. The non-perfect square comes down. So now I'm going to rewrite this in reduced form. And my final step, if necessary, I reduce the entire thing. I can take a 2 out of all of these, and I get x equals negative 2 plus or minus 2 radical 5 over 1, which is just x equals negative 2 plus or minus 2 radical 5. Again, this is something you're going to have to be able to do. Practice it. What is the correlation coefficient? Again, a question you must be able to do. Draw in the line of best fit. That was a pretty bad line, but it's good enough. It's got a negative slope, so it has to have a negative correlation coefficient. -1 is perfect. This is not a perfect line. These points do not make a perfect line. It's good. It's going to be close to negative 1. So your option is, only option left is negative 0.93. The zeros. Well, there's a couple different ways to do this. I know that the zeros hit the x-axis. So what I would do, what I would have most of you do, is do it graphically. I would go to y equals. I would take my plot off. I would do x plus 5, x plus 6. I would look at the graph, zoom 6, and I would see if the roots are negative 6 and positive 5. Nope, definitely not negative 6 and positive 5. So we're going to go to choice 2, x plus 5, x minus 6. Does that hit at negative 6 and positive 5? That's negative 1, 2, 3, 4. That's negative 5 and positive 6. So, nope. Try the next one. X minus 5, x plus 6. I see negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's negative 6. That's positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see negative 6. I see positive 5. I got my answer. Another way to do this, when you're finding the zeros algebraically, you're setting each factor equal to 0. So 0 equals x minus 5, x plus 6. And when you set each factor equal to 0, you get negative 6 and positive 5. You might be thinking, well, this is easier. Well, if you know to do that, most of you will know that the zeros hit the x-axis, so if you can do it graphically, do it graphically. Rational. For the most part, if you have an irrational number involved, your result's going to be irrational. The one exception is for multiplication and division. It is possible that two irrationals can give you a rational. Being how this is all addition, I have to be dealing with only rationals. Radical 2 is irrational. When you have radicals, it's only rational if you have a perfect square. 2 is not a perfect square. 3 is not a perfect square. 16 is. 9 is. The only two that are rational are n and p, so the only way to get a rational answer is n and p. Number 14, it wants to know what has the same solution. Well, in a system of equations, in any equation, I can multiply by whatever I want, as long as I multiply the entire equation by it. So this question is misleading. It's really more which two equations are equivalent to the two equations in the original problem. Well, 2x plus 2y equals 16 is the same as that, so that one checks out. 6x minus 2y equals 4. Well, what you're doing there is you're multiplying by 2, but you have to multiply the entire equation by 2. If you multiply the entire equation by 2, you get 8 on the right-hand side, which means this does not work out, which means this is not the answer. I'm going to erase this so it does not get confusing. And we're going to try the next choice. You're basically trying each choice and seeing which one is equivalent. 2x plus 2y equals 16. Perfect. 6x minus 2y equals 8. Well, we're multiplying this whole thing by 2 again. And if I multiply it by 2, I get 6x minus 2y equals 8. It's the same thing. It checks out. That's got to be your answer. It's asking which equation represents the function. This should be a simple question for you as long as you know to go to the calculator. I'm going to graph each of them. I'm going to see which one has that table. Y equals 3 to the power of x. Again, your calculator will actually come to the exponent. Yours is better than mine. You are fortunate. 3 comma 9. Nope, that's not my answer. So next I'm going to try 3x. look at my table. Does this have 3, 9? Yes. Does it have 4, 17? No. Next choice, 2 to the power of x plus 1. 2 to the power of x plus 1. Table, does it go through 3, 9? Yes. 2, 17, or 4, 17, yes. 6, 65, yes. 7, 129, yes. 8, 237, yes. That's my answer. Don't get this one wrong. If it gives you a table, just type each answer into the calculator, see which one works out. 16 is a challenging problem, but ain't no fang for me. John has 4 more nickels than dimes in his pocket. Stop. When I see that, nickels, dimes. I have to call the last one x. Dimes comes last. Dimes is x. 4 more than that is x plus 4. For a total of $1.25. Now, these expressions are the number of nickels. It's not the value of nickels. So, to represent the value, I would have to multiply the nickels by 0.05 and the dimes by 0.10. So, the value of the nickels plus the value of the dimes must equal $1.25. It's not asking you to solve it, it's just asking you to set it up. It looks to me like the answer is choice 2. If f of x equals 1/3 x plus 9, which statement is always true? I'm going to look at the graph to help me here. Y equals, again, you have alpha y equals enter. I don't. 1/3 x plus 9. Look at the graph. Which statement is always true? Is f of x less than 0? Remember, f of x is the same thing as y. Is y always less than 0? No. In fact, here, the whole thing is above 0. So that's not always true. Is it always greater than 0? Well, here it is, but I can tell on the left here that it's going to keep on going, and it's going to hit it somewhere over there. So that's not true. Again, even though I can't see it, I see that it's going to eventually hit over there. That's probably hard to see, but whatever. If x is less than 0, so we're taking a look at this piece right. We're taking a look at this piece right here. This is where x is less than 0. F of x is always less than 0. Is y less than 0 here? No, y is up here above 0. So that's not true. And finally, if x is greater than 0, then f of x is greater than 0. X is greater than 0 is here. Will over here the y value always be greater than 0? Yes, it's up here and it's going to keep on going. It's not going to make its way below. That one does check out. That one is the answer. Look at the picture. From the picture, you can determine the answer. During which interval was their average speed the greatest? Average speed, average rate of change. Average rate of change is the slope. So, which one has the greatest slope? This one right here, from 6 to 8. Now, to do this a little more mathematically, for average rate of change, we know our formula. We have our sum, f of b minus f of a over b minus a. F of b and f of a are 350 minus 230. b minus a is 8 minus 6. If you put that into the calculator, you get an answer, and if you compare it to the rest of them, that one is going to be the greatest. I'm not going to do that now. Christopher looked at his quiz scores, shown below for the first and second semester, is out of class. We have his grades. Which statement about Christopher's performance is correct? Well, I got to go through each choice. It's talking about the interquartile range, the median, the mean, the third quartile. Well, I'm going to have to find all that information. So for semester 1, I'm going to have to find the mean, the median, And for the interquartile range, I'm going to need Q1, Q3, and the interquartile range. And I'm going to do the same thing for second semester. So let's get my calculator up. Stat, edit. Let's get rid of this. There's no frequency list, so I'm going to put everything in L1. Semester 1, I have 78. I have 91. I have 88. 83. 94. Once I have all those values in, stat, calc, one variable statistics. Yours is a little bit different than mine. My mean is 86.8. My median, if I scroll down, is 88. Q1 and Q3 are 80.5 and 92.5. 80.5, 92.5. To find my interquartile range, I have to do Q3 minus Q1, which is 12. Now I'm going to input the data for the second semester. 91, 96, 80, 77, 88, 85, 92. Stat, calc, one variable statistics, enter. Mean is 87. Median is 88. Q1 and Q3 are 80 and 92, which makes the interquartile range 92 minus 80, which is 12. Which statement is correct? The interquartile range for semester 1 is greater than the interquartile range for semester 2? No, they're the same. So that's not the answer. The median score for semester 1 is greater than the median score for semester 2. Here's the median score for semester 1, semester 2. No, they're the same. The mean score for semester 2 is greater than the mean score for semester 1. Well, here we are. Here's the mean score for semester 2. That's greater than the mean score for semester 1. That's your answer. Finally, the last one, the third quartile for semester 2 is greater than the third quartile for semester 1. No, this is smaller than this. Choice 3 is the answer. A lot of work for a part 1 question. Deal with it. It's not difficult, it's just a lot of work. No shortcuts. It's asking for f of 2. Well, again, this is saying that x equals 2. When you see this function notation, whatever's in the parentheses is what x is. F of 2 is a. You would also say that f of 2 is equal to 0, because this point is 2 comma 0. This notation means plug this value in for x. A sunflower is 3 inches tall at week 0 and grows 2 inches each week. Which function shown below can be used to determine the height, f of n, of the sunflower in n weeks? Well, in week 0, it's starting at 3 inches tall. That's week 0. Week 1, if it's growing 2 inches, it's going to be 5. Week 2 is going to be 7. Week 3 is going to be 9. Week 4 is going to be 11, etc. Well, let's see. Is this sequence this? Well, we have our formula for arithmetic sequences on our reference sheet. A sub n equals a sub 1 plus n minus 1 d. The first term is 3. Although, if n, when n is 1, That's really your first term. Even though this is here, if you're using a formula, when n is 1, we have the value of 5. So a sub 1 is really going to be 5 plus n minus 1 times d. Well, the common difference is 2. A sub n equals 5 plus, distribute this, 2n minus 2, combine like terms, and you get 2n plus 3. So, yeah, that's that. It's not this. But what we have in 3 is a recursive sequence. So, if we have a recursive sequence, we have to do that separately, because that might work as well. So, for a recursive sequence, remember, this means the previous term. If they're giving me f of 0, all I can find right now is f of 1. Well, f of 1 would be f of n minus 1, which is f of 0, plus 2. F of 0 is 3, so that becomes 3 plus 2, which is 5. So that one checks out because here I see that f of 1 is 5. Might be a coincidence. I'm going to try the next term. F of 2 now equals, the previous term is now the first term, plus 2. F of 1 is here, 5 plus 2, which is 7. 2 comma 7, that one checks out as well. And if I keep on going, yes, that will give me the sequence. So this one checks out as well. 1 and 3 are both going to give me those values. Challenging question. A cell phone company charges $60 a month for up to 1 gigabyte of data. Take these one sentence at a time. Not too much there, but I know it's going to be $60 for a month. The cost of an additional data is 5 cents per megabyte. Per megabyte. Once I see this, I know it's going to be per x plus the one-time figure. My per is 0.05. It wants d it wants d to be the variable. The one-time amount is 60. If d represents the number of additional megabytes and c represents the total charge, which linear equation can be used to determine the user's monthly bill? Choice 4. It doesn't matter the order as long as the per has the variable. The formula for the volume of a cone is, it wants you to solve for r. We call this a literal equation. Well, I have my song to help me stay structured when I'm solving equations. Are there fractions? Yes. To get rid of fractions, I multiply by the LCD, which is 3. That gets the denominator to cancel. I have 3v equals pi r squared h. Parentheses no, combine my terms no, bring all r's to one side no. I need to isolate. When I'm isolating, you need to know to add or subtract first and to divide last. Please write this down so you can follow along with it when you're doing this. I don't see plus or minus. I'm going to cover the other side. That works. I'm going to block out the other side. I don't see a plus or a minus, so I'm not adding or subtracting, so I have to divide. What do I need to get rid of? Well, the only thing I see besides the r is the pi and the h. So I'm going to divide by pi and h to both sides. I can't divide them, so I leave it as 3v over pi h equals r squared. Almost. I have to get rid of the squared now. To get rid of the squared, I do the square root. I can't take the square root of that, so I leave it as radical 3v over pi h. For the literal equation, if you practice it, you'll be in good shape. Assuming the pattern continues, this is a sequence. The number of shaded squares. Well, let's count the number of shaded squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I see the pattern. It's an arithmetic sequence because I'm adding 4. So I go to the reference sheet and I use the formula. The first term is 12. N minus 1 is always n minus 1. D is 4. Distribute. Combine like terms. Done. Practice using your formula. It's not difficult as long as you practice it. If it wants you to graph something, graph something. Common mistake here. Notice how the radical stops right here. Make sure when you graph it, you do not put the minus 1 under the radical. Yours is going to look different than mine. Yours is going to be easier than mine because it shows you exactly what it looks like. I will get by with mine, but that's a very common mistake. There's no domain, so I'm going to graph everything that's nice from negative 10 to 10. Radical x. I'm going to close the parentheses. You're going to hit the right tab on your calculator. Minus 1. Go to your table. I want to go from negative 10 to 10. I have errors. You will get errors with radical graphs. Don't worry about it. I'm going to only plot my nice points. So 0, negative 1, 1, 0. 0, negative 1, 1, 0. 4, 1. 9, 2. 0, negative 1. 1, 0. 4, 1. 9, 2. Now, it might help you to look at the graph to see what it looks like. It's a curve, so I'm going to make sure I draw a curve. It goes on forever to the right, so I'm going to make sure I put arrows there. It does not go on forever here, so I'm not going to put an arrow there. Label it y equals radical x minus 1, and that is 2 points. For these exponential graphs, we call these our AP1RT. What you need to know, what's in front of the parentheses is your principal or initial value. What's inside is 1 plus the rate or 1 minus the rate. So 0.5 represents that it's 1 minus because it's less than 1. So 1 minus the rate equals 0.5, which means that the rate equals 0.5. If you want to get fancier, you can say that the rate is decreasing 50%. For the 300, it's the initial value. It's the initial number of milligrams of the substance. It's very important that you understand what's in front of the parentheses is the initial value. What's inside the parentheses is 1 plus or 1 minus the rate. Keyword is rate. If you forget about the 1 plus or 1 minus, the most important thing you know is that it's the rate. The vertex of a parabola represented by the equation has coordinates 2, negative 1. That's the vertex. Find the coordinates of the vertex of the parabola defined by. Whenever you see this is a transformation of functions question. You need to know your rules. So when you're seeing something being added or subtracted, it's going up, down, left, or right. I'm subtracting from the x, so this is going right to. You need to know your rules. Listening to me talk about this right now is not going to help you. On your key understandings, you have all the rules for these transformations. So if it's going right to, it's going here. What are the coordinates of the vertex afterwards? Well, this is 4, -1. Explain how you arrive at your answer. You have to explain if it asks you to explain. I translated 2, -1, 2 units to the right to get 4, -1. On the set of axes below, draw the graph of. Well, for graphing, the best thing to do is just use the calculator. Again, you can do this by hand, but, well, don't. You're more likely to make a mistake if you try and do it by hand. You can do it by hand, but at the very least, check it in the calculator. Type it in. Again, yours, you can do alpha y equals enter. I'm going to plot my points. I want all my nice points from -10 to 10. So I have -8, 9, -4, 6. I have 0, 3. I have 4, 0. I have 8, -3. -8, +9. -4, +6. 0, 3. 4, 0. 8, -3. Draw a line through them. Make sure you put arrows because it goes on forever. Y equals -3/4 x plus 3. Follow-up question. Is the point 3, 2 a solution to the equation? Well, is 3, 2 on the line? No. Explain your answer based on the graph. No. The line does not go through the point 3 times. The function f has a domain of 1, 3, 5, 7. Well, domain are all your x values. The range is all your y values. Could f be represented by? Well, let's see. My domain is 1, 3, 5, and 7. Yep. My range is 2, 4, 6, and 2. So 2, 4, and 6. Yes. Justify your answer? Well, I kind of just did, but I'm going to say yes because the x values met domain and the y values factor. Well, we have our song for factoring. You practice factoring, you're good. You don't practice it, you are not going to be good. Factor, GCF, dots, trinomials, bridge. Can you factor any further? GCF, no. Difference of 2 squares, no. Trinomials, yes. Bridge, no. Trinomials, 2 parentheses. You take this power in front of each. First sign comes down. Positive times what is a negative? A negative. What multiplies to 7? 1 and 7. Bigger number goes first. Can you factor any further? Yes. Difference of two squares. Two parentheses, plus and minus, square root of each, x and x, 1 and 1, x squared plus 7 comes down. Can you factor any further? Almost difference of two squares, but this is not x is not a perfect square. Done. Practice factoring. Robin collected data on the number of hours she watched television on Sunday through Thursday nights for a period of 3 weeks. She is a loser. Why is she spending her time doing this? The data are shown in the table below. Using an appropriate scale on the number line, construct a box plot. For a box plot, I know that I need my min, my Q1, my median, my Q3, my max. You must be able to do a box plot. I'm going to put all my data in. The columns are irrelevant. I have 15 pieces of data. I'm going to put those 15 pieces of data in. Stat, edit. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to type in 4, 4.5, 4, 3, 5, 3, 3.5, 2.5, 1, 2, 3, 1.5, and 2, 1.5, 2.5. This is a question that you must be able to do. It's not difficult as long as you practice it. Stat calc, one variable statistics, just like we did before. Scroll down to the bottom, that's where you get all your stuff. And, ooh, that's nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Make a scale. Let's start this at 1. Because I have to go to 5, I'm going to make every other box worth 1. I'm going to make a dash at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. My box connects my quartiles. My whiskers connect that. If it says to do a box plot, do a box plot. If it says to do a dot plot, do a dot plot. Don't do the wrong one. Write an equation that defines m of x as a trinomial where m of x equals. Well, sometimes I say this is a question that you need to be able to do, and sometimes I say this is a tough problem. This is a tough problem. It's a lot of algebra. I have to solve this and make it into a trinomial. Well, the first thing I have to do is to get rid of the parentheses. I need to multiply these. And to multiply binomials like this, I have to use box method. 3x minus 1, 3 minus x. 9x minus 3. I'm multiplying here, negative 3x squared plus x. And when I combine the terms, I get negative 3x squared plus 10x minus 3 plus 4x squared plus 19. So now I'm going to just combine my terms again. I get negative 3 and positive 4 is positive x squared. I have plus 10x. I have plus 16 when I combine the negative 3 and the 19. I answered the first question. It wanted a trinomial. This is a trinomial. Now it says solve for x when m of x equals 0. It's telling me that m of x equals 0. So we're replacing m of x with 0. It wants me to solve it. Mr. X squared. He wants to party. Can he party right now? Yes, because all of his friends are over. What do they want to do at the party? Bubbles. Bubbles mathematically means factors. This is a trinomial. First sign comes down. Positive times positive is positive. What multiplies to 16? 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4. Which pair adds to 10? 2 and 8. Bigger number goes first. Set each factor equal to 0. X plus 8 equals 0. X plus 2 equals 0. Solve each of them. X equals negative 8. x equals -2. If you think I'm going too fast, slow it down. It's a video. You can control it. Again, is that the easiest problem on here? No. But that's how you do it. Again, this one, not the easiest question on the test, but I can do it. So let's see if you can do it. A rectangular garden measuring 12 meters by 16 meters is to have a walkway installed around it with a width of x meters as shown in the diagram below. That's the end of the first question. Everything's in the diagram already. Together, the walkway and the garden have an area of 396 square meters. So off to the side, I'm going to write 396 meters. Write an equation that can be used to find x, the width of the walkway. We're talking about the area of a rectangle. Area of a rectangle is length times width. So, I know the area is 396. The length is this whole thing. Well, if from here to here is 16, this piece right here, so this is 16. If this here is x, then this is x. If this here is x, then this is x. So to find that whole side, I would add them, and I would get 2x plus 16. Similar for the width. If this is 12, this is 12. If this is x, this is x. If this is x, this is x. So the width is x plus 12 plus x, which is 2x plus 12. Write an equation to find x, the width of the walkway. Done. This is my equation. Describe how your equation models a situation. Area equals the length times the width. I created expressions for length and width. And substituted them into the formula. Great. Not done yet. Determine and state the width of the walkway in meters. It wants me to solve this thing now. Well, that's another fun task. I have 396 equals 2x plus 16, 2x plus 12. Well, first thing I got to do is I got to multiply those. So again, I'm doing the box. Whenever I'm multiplying polynomials, I use the box. 2x plus 16, 2x plus 12, 4x squared plus 32x plus 24x plus 192, I think. Combine like terms, I get 4x squared plus 56x plus 192 equals 396. Mr. X squared, he wants to party. Can you party right now? No. 396 has got to come over. That gives me 0 equals 4x squared plus 56x minus 204, I hope. Party time. What they want to do at the party is bubble, which means factoring. Well, I see a common factor right now, so I want to divide that away to make this problem a little bit easier. And I get x squared plus 14x minus 51. Did I make a mistake somewhere? No. transfer. So, now that we have a trinomial, I'm going to list my factors of 51, 1 and 51, 3 and 17, 4 no, 5 no, 6 no, 7 no, 8 no, 9 no, 10 no, that's it. So x plus, x minus, which pair subtracts the 14? 17 and 3 is. Sorry I froze up there a little bit. Had my adapt about 51, but math never lies. X plus 17 equals 0, x minus 3 equals 0, minus 17, minus 17, x equals negative 17, and 3 and 3, x equals 3. We're talking about the width of a walkway, it can't be negative. So x must equal 3. So the question was asking for the width of the walkway in meters. The width of the walkway is 3 meters. Again, not the easiest question. If you want to get 100, you have to be able to do this. If you want to get a good grade, make sure you know how to do the easier stuff. Caitlin has moved rental car worth $175. Good for her. One sentence down. Don't have too much from that. After she rents the first movie, the car's value is $172.25. Okay. After she rents the second movie, it's $169.50. I'm starting to see a sequence. I have 175. I have 172.25. I have 169.50. I have 166.75. Assuming the pattern continues, write an equation to define A of n, the amount of money on the rental card after n rentals. Well, it's an arithmetic sequence again, our third arithmetic sequence. What's the constant difference? What's the pattern? Well, I'm subtracting 275, aren't I? I hope so, because that's what I'm doing. Yep, that's it. So the same formula, the third time this test that we're doing it, a sub 1 plus n minus 1 times d. A sub n equals, the first term is 175 plus n minus 1, the difference is negative 2.75. Although, doing the same thing I did before. If n is 1, then n represents week 1. This is week 0. This is what she started with. This is week 1. This is week 2. This is week 3. So a sub 1 is 172.25 plus n minus 1 times negative 2.75. N is finding the equation for a of a sub n. N must be the term you're finding. The first term after week 1 is 172.25. A sub n equals 172.25 minus 2.75n plus 2.75. Combine like terms, negative 2.75n plus 175. This is my equation. Now it says, Caitlin rents a movie every Friday night. How many weeks in a row, nothing there. How many weeks in a row can she afford to rent a movie using her rental card only? So, how many weeks in a row can she afford to rent a movie? Well, she can rent a movie until her amount of money is 0. So I'm going to replace a sub n with 0. And solve it for n. Remember, we add and subtract first, we divide last. N equals negative 175 divided by negative 2.75 is 63.63 repeated. So she can afford 63. She doesn't have enough for 64. So 63 weeks. Explain how you arrived at your answer. Well, this one's pretty straightforward. It's just telling you to do what you did, to say what you did. I found the equation of the sequence and replaced A of n with 0 because that represents when she will run out of money. I then solve the equation and drop all the decimals. Not too bad of a problem, little tricks in there, but fairly straightforward. Is this the last question? Nope. Feels like it, huh? That's a lot of math. Big fat word problem. Don't worry about it. Here's the first period. Take one sentence at a time. An animal shelter spends $2.35 per day to care for each cat and $5.50 per day to care for each dog. Per goes in front of the variable. 235C plus 5.50 for the dogs. Pat noticed that the shelter spent $89.50 caring for cats and dogs on Wednesday. So this together must equal $89.50. I got an equation. Write an equation to represent the possible numbers of cats and dogs that could have been at the shelter on Wednesday. Did it. Pat said there might have been 8 cats and 14 dogs at the shelter on Wednesday. Are Pat's numbers possible? Well, 8 cats and 14 dogs. Replace cats with 8. Replace dogs with 14. You can put that whole piece into the calculator, which is what I would do. $2.35 times 8 plus 550 times 14. Does that equal 89.50? No, that's 95.80. 95.80 does not equal 89.50. So it says, are past numbers possible? Use your equation to justify your answer. No. That would cost $95.80. Not done with the problem yet. I'm only up to here. Later, Pat found a record showing that there were a total of 22 cats and dogs at the shelter on Wednesday. There were a total of 22 cats and dogs at the shelter on Wednesday. So that means that the cats plus the dogs must equal 22. How many cats were there? Well, I have a system of equations. I have to solve this system of equations. So I'm going to rewrite it with more space. I have this one right here. I have 2. I'm going to rewrite it a little bit cleaner. I have C plus D equals 22. And I have 2.35C plus 550D equals 89.50. To solve a system of equations, I need to multiply each equation by the other one's coefficient. So pick a variable to cancel. I'm going to pick d. If I want the d's to cancel, I multiply this equation by 1, this one by 550, and because they're both positive, I make one of them negative. I multiply everything through. Negative 550c minus 550d equals 22 times negative 550 is negative 121. The bottom one didn't change because I just multiplied it by 1. And now I add the equations together because the d's cancel. Negative 550 plus 2.35 is negative 3.15c equals negative 121 plus 8950 is negative 31.5. Now I can solve the equation, divide by negative 3.15. C equals, when I divide those, I believe I get 10, don't I? Yeah. The question is asking for how many cats there are. There are 10 cats. If I wanted to know how many dogs there were, I would just substitute into one of the equations. This one's easier. And I would solve it. Again, I don't have to do that for this particular problem, but if I did, and you might, you would find the dogs that way. Long problem, super difficult. No, this is one I really would know how to do. Just practice it, and it's really not that bad compared to some of the other ones. I believe this is the last question. The company is considering building a manufacturing plant. They determine the weekly production cost at site A to be A of x equals 3x squared, while the production cost at site B is B of x equals 8x plus 3, where x represents the number of products in hundreds. So x equals number of products in hundreds. And A of x and B of x are the production costs. So this is cost for A, this is cost for B in hundreds of dollars. So everything's in hundreds here. Graph production costs. Look here. Graph production cost functions on the set of axes below and label them side A and side B. I can do that. It's a graph. I'm just going to pull up my calculator. I'm happy to see that as a 6-point question because graphing is very straightforward. I just put it into the calculator and swap the points to tell me. So I have 3x squared, 3x squared, and I have 8x plus 3. Notice that the graph they gave me goes from 0 to 4, so I'm only going to plot my x values from 0 to 4. So for A of x, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And for B of x, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, it's a little bit cramped, but I don't have too much space here. So I'm going to now go back to my calculator. I'm going to look at the table. I'm going to only copy down 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first one is 0, 3, 0, 0, 3, 12, 27, and 4, 48. Sorry, that's a little messy. For the other one, I have 3, 11, 19, 27, 30. So 0, 0, 1, here's my 1. Notice that each box here is worth 2. So 1 comma 3 would be right there. 2 comma 12 would be right there. 3 comma 27, well, here's 3. 27 would be right here. And 4 comma 48 would be here. It's a parabola, so I'm going to draw a curve through these points. I'm going to label it side A. Now, site B, 0 comma 3, 1 comma 11, 2 comma 19, 3 comma 27, ooh, same point, that probably means something, and 4 comma 35. My line's a little bit off, but well, that's site B. All right, we got more questions. State the positive values of x for which the production cost of the two sites are equal. Well, they're equal where they intersect. They intersect right here. What's the x value? Positive values of x. The x value is 3. I also know in the table that it's 3. So, they are equal when x equals 3 because that is where the graphs intersect. If the company plans on manufacturing 200 products per week, which site should they use? Well, remember, x is in hundreds, so 200 is really 2. Which one's better? If they're going to be manufacturing 200, do they want to pay more or do they want to pay less? They want to pay less. Site A would be cheaper because A of 2 equals 1,200 and B of 2 equals 1,900. That's my justification. That is June 2014, Common Core Algebra. If you think that this is too hard for 9th graders to do, write the Cuomo and tell me doesn't know what he's doing. But for the time being, this is what you're responsible for. Go through this as many times as you need to. Practice it. Practice, 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 especially the questions that we said you must be able to do. In order to pass this thing, you don't have to know how to do everything, you have to know how to do something. And we talked plenty about the stuff that you do need to know how to do. The more time you put into this, the better you're going to do. So whatever your goal is, do what you need to do to reach it. That was an hour and 14 minutes of my life that will forever be engulfed into this